everyone, I hope you all are doing great. Welcome back to our channel AglaSem Schools. Today in this video I will be covering chapter 10 of class 8th of English, that is the Great Stone Face part 2. So let's have an introduction first. Ernest still lived in his native valley. He was a simple-hearted man. He always worked for the betterment of the world. Though he was considered to be an ordinary man, yet he was humble and rich in thoughts. Further, coming to a famous poet and Ernest. The poet had heard of Ernest's character. One day he came to his door. Ernest was reading a book and glancing lovingly at the mountain from time to time. Ernest gave him shelter for the night. The great stone face looked kindly at the poet. The poet found Ernest wise, gentle and kind. Ernest was also moved by the poet's mind. It seemed the great stone face was bending forward to listen to the poet. Ernest examined the poet's feature. He hoped the poet was the person he had been waiting for. The poet declared himself unworthy of the likeness of the stone face. His life was different from his poems. So let's begin with the very first question, that is comprehension check. Here question number 1 says, write true or false against the following statement. Part 1 says, Ernest's words reminded people of the wise old saying. So the answer is true. Second, total strangers from far away who visited Ernest in the valley found his face familiar. So the answer is true. Third, the great stone face confirmed Ernest's view that the poet could be worthy of its likeness. So the answer is false. Fourth, when Ernest and the poet met, they respected and admired each other equally. So the answer is true. Fifth, the poet along with Ernest addressed the inhabitants of the valley. So the answer is false. Sixth, the poet realized that Ernest's thoughts were far nobler than his own verses. So the answer is true. Further, moving to a walking with the text, answer the following questions. Question number 1 says, how was Ernest different from others in the valley? So the answer is, Ernest was unlike other commoners in the valley. He was a good, simple-hearted, noble and thoughtful person. He had been under observation. He did not go with the crowd. He welcomed total strangers at the prophet. Further, moving to question number 2, which says, why did Ernest think the poet was like the stone face? So the answer is, the poet wrote wonderful songs. He had celebrated the great stone face in one of his poems. When Ernest read this poem, he became convinced that the poet was like the stone face. Question number 3 says, what did the poet himself say about his thoughts and poems? So the answer is, the poet confessed that he was not worthy to be compared with the stone face. His action did not match with its thoughts. Further, question number 4 says, what made the poet proclaim Ernest was the stone face? So the answer is, Ernest and the poet together went to the meeting place. Ernest addressed the gathering. His words had power and his thoughts had depth. They were the words of life, a life of good deeds and selfless love. The poet was convinced that Ernest was much nobler than him. Ernest's face had such a grand expression that he declared that Ernest bore the likeness of the great stone face. Further, question number 5 says, write Ernest or poem against each statement. Part 1 says, there was a gap between his life and his words. So the answer is poet. Second part says, his words had the power of truth as they agreed with his thoughts. So the answer is Ernest. Third, his words were as smoothing as the heavenly song, but only as useful as a vague dream. So the answer is poet. Fourth, his thoughts were worthy. Answer is poet. Fifth, whatever he said was the truth itself. Answer is Ernest. Sixth, his poems were noble? Answer is poet. 7th, his life was nobler than all the poems. Answer is Ernest. 8th, he lacked faith in his own thoughts. Answer is poet. 9th, his thoughts had power as they agreed with the life he lived. So the answer is Ernest. 10th, greatness lies in truth. Truth is best expressed in one's action. He was truthful, therefore he was great. So the answer is Ernest. Further, question number 6 says, who by common consent turned out to be like the great stone face? So the answer is Ernest, who accepted by common consent exactly like the great stone face. Question number 2 says, did Ernest believe that the old prophecy had came true? What did he say about it? So the answer is no. Ernest still was not convinced that the old prophecy had came true. He hoped that someday a man wiser and nobler than him will come and would look truly similar to the great stone face. So guys, I have covered all the questions of this chapter in this video. I hope you like this video, and if you have any query or any doubt related to any of the questions discussed, please put your query in the comment section below. For more such NCERT solution, keep watching and do not forget to subscribe our channel AglaSem Schools. And do not forget to wear a mask and take good care of your health.